Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Grand National Series, the FTF Grand National Series, sponsored by Splash and Go Graphics. It's the round of 8, race number 2, and it's short track racing here at North Wilkesboro. We know one of the 8 drivers that is already locked in for the final 4. That's going to be Derek Justice that won last week. But we've got 7 other drivers trying to fill in those 3 final spots. It is going to be a hunt show to figure out where drivers are going to be, and it's going to be crazy. Starting on the pole, it's going to be Dylan Alt, who needs to have a good run right now. The driver just outside looking in. You've also got Brian Mercurio in that 41 machine. He's inside of the top 4, but just barely. The points are so close. Then you've got Devin Strauss as well as Blake Reynolds. Blake Reynolds comes in with a hefty lead of 15 points, still needing a little bit more points to be completely secure in the next 2 weeks, as we have next week off. Then back in row number 3, we've got Michael Frisch, Tucker Minter, and Minter's been doing well. Frisch, a driver that does extremely well during these short tracks, but coming into this week, he's the furthest out points-wise, needing a win possibly here for himself to have a solid day coming to our last race of the round of 8, which will be at Martinsville. We continue to have short track racing here to finish off the round of 8. It's just been a lot. Evan Brinker in the 21 machine, 7th, starting in 7th place. Then you got Michael Cozy Jr. And, Cozy's going to be someone to be watching out for. That 99 machine, just that bubble driver, 4th in points at the moment. That will be making it in, and the rest of the grid will continue to go on. Here at North Wilkesboro, watching practice, these drivers seem extremely loose coming out of the corner. It's going to be a total of 200 laps here tonight, and it's going to be a lot for these drivers. We find ourselves with a total, I believe, of 32 drivers, for tonight's race. But it's going to be a lot of drivers trying to figure out where they're going to be throughout the night. It's going to be a lot. We got our pace truck still swinging around. My name is Sam Dyer. Later tonight, we're going to have Seth Coles coming in, and Seth's going to be giving us a lot of that racing action and helping us out later on, but he just is getting done with a different broadcast that we just got finished here. Drivers getting lined up, ready to go, and Olt is excited to get this thing going. We're going to see the pace truck pulling off. 200 laps here in the second race of round number 8. For these drivers, and Dylan up to a huge start here in the 41 of Mercurio, going to be stuck, and Strauss already on the inside for that 5 machine. Strauss has been on a tear recently in these last couple of weeks. He's going to be trying to keep on moving forward. Mercurio going to be stuck right now, trying to follow suit. Stuck on the high side there. I believe that is Minter in that 10 machine. He's going to be stuck on the high side right now, still holding strong with, already in the wreck, and that's going to be one of our points contenders. Mercurio and more wrecking behind as they're all scattering around. Our first wreck of the day on our second lap here at North Wilkesboro, and Brian Mercurio already involved in a wreck as he has no front bumper or rear end. We're going to take a quick replay to figure out what exactly happened to this 41 machine. I mean, these drivers already running hard. Like we stated during practice, these drivers were dealing with a looseness out of the corner, and Mercurio not able to survive, and it might have been with a little bit of help. The 5 of Strauss, you'll see coming in here, gives the 41 a bump. He gets loose, tries to save it, overcorrects, and then comes scattering in. Everyone else tries to scatter around. The 84 there of Cosmonus and No-Shoe going to be involved hitting the 41 machine, but hard contact for that front end, also for the rear end of the 41 machine of Mercurio. Now, the main thing, it's short track racing here. Can we see this 41 machine get back under, get enough damage repair, as well as is the engine okay? If the engine's okay for the 141 machine, doesn't matter how much damage this thing looks, it still should be able to run up in our top 10. Another driver that actually just came into the pits, it's going to be for a quick time, it looked like, just drove through the pits. That's going to be Andrew Strauss. And Strauss is going to be someone interesting as well to watch out for, because he's been known to start in the back, work his way forward, qualify decently well for the 61 machine, just came into the pits. Another driver that just came in is going to be Jake Poulin, as well as it's going to be the I'm seeing them all scattering through. The 86 of Rich Jameson is going to be also coming in, and Justin Malello. But up front, it's going to be Dylan Olt in that 40 machine, still leading the way here with 5 laps out of 200 being ran so far. It's been crazy racing here. Already seeing drivers caught up in incidences that we were not expecting to see so early on, which, I mean, you don't want to see that from a non-championship contender bumping a championship contender there. But Strauss has been showing he's willing to make moves if it's going to give him a win. And that move right there might be giving him a bad rap so far this race. We'll see how the race continues on. But right now, Mercurio is back out on track. He's going to be running all the way back in 31st position for that 41 machine. Cars are lined up. They're stacked up. Pace truck is off. And we're green once again as Olt gets a fabulous start once again on the inside. Strauss going to be able to hold his lane, but now side by side back battling for third place. It's going to be Michael Frisch as well as Blake Reynolds as they finally start to single file out a little bit here. You start to see Cozy Jr. and Minter are going to be figuring out where their positions are. Kyle Reilly and is going to be back in 7th place. But right now, our front about 6, 7, feeling comfortable at the moment. Minter is going to get loose, able to save it there. Oh, that 10 machine gun all out of sorts, but able to save it, get going. Is only going to fall back to 12th place as that everyone's still stacked on top of one another. And just showing that one simple mistake could cost you for a hot second, as these drivers are all on top of one another. The 21 of Brinker still side by side. Caution to the back, though, as they're all scattering behind. As I believe, looking back, that is going to be a car in front of this group. That is very slow. We're going to take a quick replay to figure out who exactly that was. I think it might have been the 73 machine. As we're taking a quick replay here, drivers scattering everywhere, and I believe actually it might have been the 37 of Walsh that had to go heavy braking into this one. As we're still trying to figure out who exactly brought this caution out, as there was a lot of scattering on the backstretch of cars, and it was the 28 actually that got spun around on the exit of 2. It's going to be Ryan Williams, who we'll see here on this replay. Coming out of 2, the 28 machine is by David Shieldhouse. Shieldhouse just clips the 28 machine, spins him around, and everyone else scattering. The 37 had nowhere to go, runs into the 28. And that's going to be what causes our second caution of the day here at the FTF Grand National Series, sponsored by Splash and Go. It's been a wild race already. 2 cautions under 10 laps. They've got 200 laps they need to go here. It's going to be insane to see as it continues on. But Dylan Olt, I think that 40 machine, the most comfortable he could be all race long. He's been getting fabulous restarts, getting himself almost up to a half-second lead right off the bat. All the racing action is from second on back, as they're still trying to figure out where they're at. And believe we do have Seth in the booth here now. And Seth, I mean, this is race number 2 of the round of 8. A lot of drivers hungry for this race. We've already seen one of our top 8 involved in a wreck. That's going to be Mercurio. Man, it's been intense here in the first couple of laps.
Yeah, and it's really not surprising to see who we've got out in front here. We've got Michael Frisch, who picked up his first win of the season at a short track. That was back at, I believe it was Irwindale. And then we've got Dylan Olt, who is the defending winner at a short track coming into this race when he was able to advance his way here into this round of 8 with his win at Nashville. So certainly 2 of the best at the short tracks pacing this field currently. But going back, as you mentioned there with Brian Mercurio, bit of an early hole to be digging himself into here. We'll have to see if he can bounce back. You don't have to have the prettiest car at a short track to be able to finish well, so we'll see what he does the remainder of this race. Still a long ways to go.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how these drivers race around here. I mean, it was It was Strauss that was the one that made the contact, and he's now dropped all the way back to 31st position for that 5 machine going into the pits that time. By green flag back in the air as it's now 187 laps to go. Oates, again, a great start. Frisch able to stay behind in that 58 machine, but the side-by-side action starts at 3rd place.
And there's a lot of drivers that are actually even utilizing the 3rd groove over in 1 and 2, riding way up the racetrack. There's 3 wide, about 4 or 5 different portions of the track right now.
Yeah, these drivers are going to be putting everything they have here, trying to figure out how to get this speed, as a lot of the action up front. I mean, whoa, as Blake Reynolds gets a little bit of contact there with Brinker, but able to save it there as they're still side by side, almost 3 wide here from 4th on back.
Watching some of our playoff contenders back in traffic, Derek Justice, who already knows he's advancing into the championship 4 after his victory last week at Homestead Miami Speedway. He's got Kane Cook not too far behind him. Remember, Kane Cook started the race at Homestead last week from pit road, so he finished the race way back as he was trapped a lap down for a majority of the event. He's back in 19th place. And you mentioned about Brian Mercurio. Right now, he's just worked his way into the 23rd position, slowly trying to make some forward progress.
Mercurio right there, the 41 machine with no front bumper as we move back up front. As that battle for 4th place still underway, as it's going to be Brinker now going to be able to make that pass cleanly as the 3 gets tapped again. Same situation that happened to Mercurio. Now happens to Blake Reynolds, and oh my goodness, cars sideways stuck.
That's Kevin McAdams that was up in the air. I think that's Cosgrove that's facing up the wrong way as well. At least 4 cars and 1 car, McAdams, up into the air.
And there might be even more issues up front of these guys as they all even slow down even more with more drivers on the backstretch as we're trying to figure that out.
Happened to the 10 of Tucker Minter.
But first, we got to check out how we got that all scattered around Blake Reynolds. And that 3 machine gets tapped again. Same situation that happened to Mercurio earlier, but this time the 3 was involved.
As you're looking at that, you'll be seeing momentarily what happened to the 10 of Minter. He and Brandon Hawkins went to the grass to avoid that wreck that you're looking at right now. Kyle Reilly went around the outside. He got loose on corner exit, spun down, and clipped Tucker Minter. Everyone, fortunately, was able to split the 10 car down the back straightaway.
Yeah, you see Minter there, and we're going to take a look and ride for what happened to the 10. Exactly like you said. I mean, it's just all avoidance of the front incident. That's some of the issues. Is our 2 out of our 3 cautions have been up front. As just getting clipped was Minter there, almost able to get by. That's now 2 of our 8 drivers hunting for a championship involved in an incident there, and those 2 in our top 4 coming into this race. I mean, Seth, that has to be irritating for them to start out the way that they have, but luckily it's still early in the race.
Well, it's still early in the race. For Brian Mercurio, the situation's a little bit more dire than it is for Blake Reynolds. Reynolds coming into this race is 15 points ahead of the cutoff line, and with only 33 drivers able to take the green flag here tonight, being a short track, not as much of an opportunity to lose a ton of points as opposed to fields of 42 or sometimes even 62 on the grid. So I think Reynolds might still be okay. For Brian Mercurio, the big issue I think for him right now, as well as the 99 of Michael Cozy Jr., they came in 3rd and 4th in the standings, 4 points ahead of the cut line. But as I mentioned, Dylan Alt and Michael Frisch, they've got wins at short tracks. You could actually also add Kane Cook because he has a Bristol win. All 3 of those drivers have won at short tracks this season, and all 3 of them are below the cut line. If they win, they're up into the top 4. Mercurio and Cozy, depending on who's 4th in the standings, they get dropped out heading into, in 2 weeks' time, the penultimate race at Martinsville.
And we can't even really throw out Andrew Schwartz out of this thing. I mean, that driver has been always known to start in the back, make his way forward. Right now in 24th position, but at one point was the last car on the lead lap. So Andrew Schwartz, someone to always look out for at the later end of this race. I think right now it's survive and make it to the end. We're not even at the quarter of the way of this race. 3 cautions in, and a lot of these drivers already finding struggles and really where they thought they would be comfortable up front.
Gonna be Dylan Alt and Michael Frisch getting us back underway. And, we talk about every single week as well, not only the playoff contenders, but how about the non-playoff contenders that can make things up? You've got Evan Brinker, Brandon Hawken, David Shieldhouse. I mean, Hawken and Shieldhouse, they were just eliminated from the playoffs a couple weeks ago, but they still want to finish out the season with trips to victory lane.
That time Alt kind of got held is he did not get the best restart that he's been getting. It seems like Michael Frisch might be reeling in what this 40's been doing on his restarts as he's right on the back bumper. Here comes that 58 machine, a Michael Frisch. He's trying to make a move here for the lead.
He got back to the throttle there out of turn, or into turn 4, I should say, a lot sooner than Dylan Alt did. While it did gain him some time on exit, he lost some ground on the straightaway, and now you see about a half a car length the separation between the top two.
And you also got Michael Coase Jr. right there behind him, and that 99 machine, he's been quick at a lot of these short tracks, but I think the surprise right now in the top, in our top 5, I mean, we got David Shieldhouse right now in this 20 machine. He is going to be trying to run as well as he can, but don't look now. Derek Justice in 6th place. He is hounding as well.
And Derek Justice, of course, as we said, worry-free going into North Wilkesboro tonight and Martinsville in 2 weeks. He knows he's going to be battling for the championship, so now just trying to keep momentum up heading into that battle at ISM. I just want to update as well, that last caution that we had, all that heavy contact, the one driver that may have gotten the minimal contact out of the 3 was Blake Reynolds. He's still continuing on the lead lap in 20th, but Kevin McAdams and Alex Cosgrove, both of them sitting on pit lane, 6 laps down for McAdams and 9 laps down for the 66 of Cosgrove.
Car spinning out on the inside.
That's Hagenstein.
Yeah, that 82 machine that dips down, that's not going to be bringing out a caution, but saw him looping it out of 2 and finally getting it underway. So no caution just yet as Kane Cook now into the top 10 with that spin.
Tristan Hagenstein was running well, too. I think he was around the 9th position when he spun. So tough break, losing out on a ton of track position with that little bit of a mishap off the second corner.
And drivers that have pitted and have slowly been working their way forward. I mean, the 5 machine up to now the top 15 as we're staying on board for our leaders is right now Michael Frisch setting up for the pass here. Is he almost got back on the throttle quick enough out of 4. He'll try to be setting up this 40 machine as into 1 side by side. Almost a little bit of contact there between the 2 drivers.
So Dylan Alt try and pinch Michael Frisch down. That's an old short track maneuver, but sometimes it's not always going to work out to your benefit because there's no guarantee the 58's not going to push up when you try and pinch him down. What Dylan Alt was trying to do there was force the 58 to not be able to get back to the throttle on the straightaway and thusly keeping the race lead for Dylan Alt. And there's a driver that's back here in the field that I'm going to be keeping my eye on. Still a long ways to go in this race, and he hasn't made a whole lot of noise early on. That's the 19 of Briar LaPrade. The reason being, I brought up the fact that Dylan Alt took the checkered flag at the last short track we were at back at Nashville. Dylan Alt got into the back of Briar LaPrade in the closing stages of that race to go on to win. I almost wonder if maybe a little payback could be waiting in the wings either here this week or maybe at Martinsville next week. You never know.
It is certainly something to watch out for as the battle for the lead still underway. Michael Frisch, he's right there, able to get under the 40 machine into turn number 3, and now it's going to be coming out of 4. Does he have the momentum as they're still side by side across the line?
I think he's got him. I think if he can hold this inside line and have them be side by side equal going into the corner, at some point he's going to be able to get about half a car length ahead on entry, maybe over here in 3 and 4. It's just a matter of how many laps it's going to take for him to finally complete the pass, and he does.
I think at the right time because that 99 machine and the 21 were coming up quick on the both of them. Now you've got a 3-car battle, about to be a 4-car battle here for the lead. But as these drivers continue to battle on, we're going to take, looking back at where drivers are, Mercurio back in 25th position. That's not where he wants to be. Blake Reynolds has already moved himself up into the top 20, up to 18th place. So early issues for both those drivers. Mercurio, it looks like there might be some engine damage for that 41 machine, and I don't see himself. He's got to hope for more drivers to be involved in incidences.
Yeah, if he's got that engine damage, like you're saying, it's not going to hurt him in the corners, but it really is going to hurt him on these straightaways. They don't seem like long straightaways, but for a short track, these are pretty lengthy, and you have to get every little bit of horsepower you possibly can. And so Oh, right behind him. I think that was Kazuma Shinoshi who was loose, but right now for Brian Mercurio, you're right. He needs this to be a race of attrition. More importantly, he needs this to be a race of attrition for other drivers that are around him in the point standings, like drivers that are right in his same vicinity. Michael Cozy Jr., Dylan Alt, Andrew Schwartz, drivers like that, just to make sure that he's still in the same area of the standings as they are, to kind of preserve the 4-point advantage he had coming into this race.
Cozy up to second place after getting by Alden. Alt gave the 99 a little bit of a bump after that pass. So those drivers making a little bit of contact. Reeker now coming in that 21 machine. He's quick, someone to watch out for, but cars are dropping back. Looks like, I'm looking at Kane Cook right now. He's not dropping back, but he has moved up to 7th place. He is cruising very quickly up. Probably one of the fastest cars on track at the moment.
Yeah, right now, Kane Cook trying to knock on the door of the top 5. And really, I kind of get the feeling this is a race that Kane Cook has to finish up inside of the top 15, because he is 16 points behind the cut line coming into this race. If he can at least cut that down by half, have about 8 points between himself and 4th in the stands going into Martinsville, I think that's doable. But I just don't think with only one race remaining here in this round that you can go into an elimination race with double digits behind the driver that's in that final playoff position.
No, you really can't. We're going to drop back to this battle for 10th place, as actually it's the battle for 9th place, as David Shieldhouse going to be under fire by the 25 of Norton. And Norton looks like he'll be able to make this pass, maybe, as drivers behind them are coming, as that's the 5 of Strauss. He is coming in that 5 machine. He's one of the drivers that pitted and has fresher tires.
And Donovan Strauss, who won a few weeks ago at the Charlotte Roval, Sean Butler in the 35, Briar LaPrade in the 19. I mean, with the 20 and the 25 continually running side by side with each other, they're taking away the preferred line that they both would like to run. It's stacking them up behind them, and now we've got it double wide with Strauss and Butler. And if LaPrade
Strauss gets loose as he saves it on the entry there, but he's going to be losing so many positions. Blake Reynolds also gets a little bit out of shape as that 3 machine's moving forward, and surprised to see Walsh in that 37 machine we saw in the first caution really hit that front bumper hard. Actually, that was for the second caution, and he's still cruising quite well for that 37 machine.
Sean Butler with an issue there out of turn 2 as he got down the grass, and that's something, that we didn't really touch on here. North Wilkesboro is one of those few short tracks where there's not really a rumble strip down there separating the infield grass from the racetrack. So when you're running that inside line, you're actually straddling the grass, and we saw just there with the 35 and just a couple laps before with the 5. Drivers getting their left sides down that grass where there is no grip.
And right now, Strauss is going to be side by side here. And with the 0-2 trying to make his way forward. Also Minter, who we saw spun around in that 10 machine on our last caution, is the 26 of McAdams trying to figure out how to get back on track as he just came out of the pits and finally finds an opening to get going.
Battle for the lead is starting to heat up as well. I've been watching Michael Cozy Jr. these last couple of laps, and he is running about a half groove higher on entry and a half groove lower on exit. It's really been working for him, and I think what he's doing, he's searching to find some momentum off the corner to be able to get to the inside of Michael Frisch on one of these straightaways.
Yeah, I mean, he's right there, and this is kind of looking exactly how Frisch set up Alt. Just running on the back bumper, waiting for the opening, and there he goes, the 99 machine onto the inside. Here comes Cozy, trying to get under, and he's there. He is going to be side by side on the exit. He's got the momentum for now, still in the quarter panel. That's where he wants to be on the entry of 1.
Michael Cozy Jr., I believe, is looking for his first short track win of the season. I know that his first win this year came at Phoenix. I'll have to go back and find out where his second win was at, but I'm pretty certain it was not a short track. And I was kind of wondering if you might try pushing the 57 up the track there out of turn 4. A lot of times you have to use your race car to muscle somebody out of the lead, and Michael Cozy Jr. trying to do that right now, but they got to settle this battle out because Dylan Alt could get back up into the vicinity and make it a 3-man fight.
Lap traffic might be another issue for these drivers, as we're starting to see it in our picture. These drivers still side by side for the lead, and lap traffic is just a quarter of the corner away.
And this is going to be tough for those machines on the tail end of the lead lap or a lap down as well, because you can see right here with the 99 and the 58 continuing to run side by side, both lanes are viable, the inside and the outside lines. So when they eventually get up to the tail end of the field, where does the traffic go? Do they go low? Do they go high? Do they maybe go all the way up to that third groove? They're going to have to figure that out.
They're really going to have to. A driver that just got into the top 5 and just continues to cruise forward. Kane Cook up to 4th place. One of the fastest cars moving through the field right now for that 55 machine. Just got by Derek Justice. And also, Evan Brinker is dropping back quick. Now back to 6th place.
Yeah, 2 drivers that absolutely coming into this race had to get top 5 runs. We already mentioned about Kane Cook. Well, Michael Frisch, who led a good portion of the early stages of this race, now has dropped back to 2nd, was another one, came in 19 points back. And you remember, Sam, that was the connection problems that he had back at Homestead while running at the time up inside of the top 5. So both of these drivers doing exactly what they need to do. Even if they don't win tonight, if they can at least finish in the top 5, they give themselves a shot at Martinsville in 2 weeks.
And we drop back. We're actually going to be looking, this 51 machine of Justin Malello is going to be the first car of machines that are going to go a lap down. And then you got Hagerstein in front of him as Malello gets a little out of shape on the entry of 1. And here comes our leaders.
Michael Cozy Jr. going to have to tiptoe his way through this traffic, I do believe, because not only are these drivers at the tail end of the field, but the reason they're back there is they are struggling with the racetrack. So you have to be not only aware of your line going into the corner, but their line as well, and making sure that they aren't going to get out of shape in front of you.
Yeah, and that's really one of the scarier things. Also, you'll be seeing this on the backstretch. There's that little bit of a divot in the middle of the backstretch. If you knock someone into that, you're going to ruin someone's day instantly, and that is a very scary moment if you start seeing cars wrecking on the backstretch, because there's a potential chance of a lot of carnage happening. As we're going to now drop in the middle of the field, as Strauss right now. Ooh, is
that's the fun. That's where all the fun's going on. They were 3 wide twice in the last 3 laps there. Schwartz, Strauss, and Minter. I'm not sure how they made it work, but they did a 3 wide formation off of turn 4 on back-to-back laps.
Well, they're in front of them. They might be thinking about going 3 wide here. So you got Walsh, and then you also got Shieldhouse and Blake Reynolds thinking about making a move here, as Reynolds probably is feeling just stuck. I mean, he's got spun around, but still very fast cars. Now he'll go to the 3rd lane, trying to make a pass here, a pass Shieldhouse on the outside.
Stuck is exactly the word. Caution is out. It looks like we've got a problem with Andy Margo in the 48 on the back straightaway.
Yeah, so we'll take a quick replay to figure out what happened to this 48 machine.
But going back to your point about Blake Reynolds, yeah, at that point in time, he was stuck. He had actually made some great forward progress after battling back, after getting involved in that wreck up in the turn 3 area. He got up about 15th. Then when he worked his way up to 13th, he just kind of stalled out, being trapped behind side-by-side battles with Schwartz, Strauss, Shieldhouse, Oates, Walsh, and others.
It was a very simple spin that brought out our caution, as Margo kind of just looped it coming out of 2. As we'll take here a closer look inside the wheelhouse of this driver. I mean, it just came out of 2, just got a little bit loose. Luckily, no one else was involved. Also didn't hit the wall, so a clean caution to have, but our 4th caution of the day after we passed the quarter marker.
With this caution coming out, it's going to draw just about the entire field down pit road. These drivers given 3 sets of tires for these 200 laps. Michael Cozy Jr., the race leader, was in. He took on 4 tires and fuel. Looks like Michael Frisch, Dylan Alt did the same, as they had a heck of a battle off pit road. I think it was Frisch over Dylan Alt coming off the pit lane, but we did have some drivers elect to stay out an extra lap, and now they're coming to pit road. Sean Butler and Derek Justice.
Which leaves now John Poole III leading this way in the 76 machine, which interesting to see.
Trying to remember the other short tracks that we've covered, what the fuel window was. I'm wondering if there's anything in it for Derek Justice. We know that he's already locked in, so he can kind of roll the dice and be off sequence with everybody else. Coming down pit lane, giving up a ton of track position without even getting a bonus point for leading a lap. But that extra lap of fuel, I mean, I don't necessarily think these drivers could go about 140 laps on 1 tank of fuel, but then again, I could be wrong. And that 1 extra lap of fuel that Derek Justice picks up, let's say we go green the rest of the way. Is it possible that that is what he's thinking?
Well, he also came in. He had a very long stop for that 31 machine. Looked like there was some damage that he wanted to get repaired, and did get that damage repair. As now drivers are getting set up and racked up, ready to get going here once the pace car crosses the line again. But I believe Derek Justice just came in, get some repairs done. He has been scraped a few times by other cars during caution, so just trying to get repairs done, get back out there. And speaking of cars that are trying to get repairs done, Brian Mercurio going to be back in pit road trying to get repairs done for that 41 machine. It's just been a rough day so far for that crew, and getting back out there, it's just, this is not the day that they were wanting. I mean, qualified well for the 41 machine, and then getting pushed out of the way, and immediately your day is done, kind of in a fashion. You're just hoping that everyone else's day gets kind of ruined as the race progresses through.
Yeah, and without a doubt, during the regular season, Brian Mercurio was really our number 3 driver behind Derek Justin Blake Reynolds. I know that Brandon Hawken was a 2-time winner, Michael Cozy Jr. was a 2-time winner, but they didn't make all of the races. I mean, Brian Mercurio, in terms of making all the races and being consistent, he was really that number 3 driver, and he was a guy that we were certainly looking at to make him the Final Four. Now, it's not over yet.
Alt into the wall hard! As our yellow brings out, the 40 machine still stuck up there, has not made any contact with anyone else, but did hit the outside wall hard for the 41. But I think it was more so on the front right instead of actually straight on the engine and straight on. So we'll have to take a quick look here. But another championship playoff driver caught up in an incident here, and it was Kane Cook trying to figure out how to get by John Poole III, and didn't realize the 40 was right there.
Add another thing to the list of things I do not understand. I don't know how everybody was able to get through this, because at a short track, if the car spins around, is parallel with the wall, that's one thing. But Dylan Alt's car, his back end was facing 90 degrees out into the racing line, and there were a couple of 3-wide formations coming through the exit of turn 2. I don't know how Dylan Alt was the only driver involved in that one.
This is Kane Cook's bumper view. Just was trying to figure out how to squeeze through there, and that was what brought out our 5th caution of the day. And Seth, I mean, with all these cautions that have been coming out, this kind of isn't surprising to see. I mean, North Wilkesboro has been notorious in a way for bringing out cautions, just because of how new this racetrack still kind of is for a lot of these drivers. Yes, it came out in the middle of the season, but still is kind of a fresh race here on iRacing.
It really is, and as we saw on that one green flag run, it is a multi-groove track. The inside and the outside line can work, but at the same time, it's close quarter racing, which means it's open for mistakes. One little mistake can cause a lot of mayhem. We've seen quite a number of wrecks up at the front of the field, and just looking at this from a playoff perspective, the one driver that's looking at this with maybe a little bit of a smile on his face is Brian Mercurio, because the separation between himself and Dylan Alt coming into this race was 4 points. Dylan Alt losing a lot of track position with this wreck. So I don't know how hard a hit he took there necessarily with that right front, but he's now going to be back there in the vicinity of Brian Mercurio. Mercurio that hoping that maybe a couple other of the playoff contenders will have some issues here, as we're not even yet into the second half of this race.
You know, a driver that we always talk about that starts in the back, starts moving his way forward. Andrew Schwartz is already in the top 10. This is terrified for the rest of the field.
I can understand this strategy at a road course, trying to preserve your tires and work your way through. I can understand it at a super speedway. I can understand a 1.5 mile track. But he even does it at the short tracks, which are places where when you start at the back, you run the risk of maybe falling a lap down early. But he proved me wrong a few weeks ago at Nashville. I was looking at him back running around inside the top 25, and I'm thinking, there's no way he's going to stay on the lead lap. He came on to finish in the 9th position there. I don't know what it is that Andrew Schwartz is able to find at every single configuration of track in that type of strategy, but he makes it work to perfection.
He really does, and it's going to be exciting to see what this 67 machine can do in that subway car to get back up front. Get up front and maybe challenge for the lead, but right now it's going to be between the 99, the 58, Frisch and Cozy Jr. as the green flag back in the air. The 99 has got a fantastic start, and here comes Kane Cook on the inside.
Kane Cook may have the fastest car in the field. He's certainly got one of the best cars in terms of making forward progress. Evan Brinker drives it deep there into turn 3, trying the outside line. And how about Jonathan Oates now looking to his inside? He's in the top 5 now.
Schwartz started in 6th, but he's dropped all the way back to 8th. He's been stuck on the outside, and it is not looking good. He is completely being surrounded by other vehicles that are trying to get by him, almost put into 3 wide situations, as this 67 machine in a very precarious spot.
Ooh, and he's got the 25 into his back bumper there as well. Will Norton going to cross him over just in front of Blake Reynolds. Andrew Schwartz up in that 3rd group. I think this is a desperation move, trying to get to a safe spot on the racetrack.
I mean, it's all about trying to get onto the inside, and he finally found space. And in front of them, Blake Reynolds now kind of going to be stuck where he's at as they continue to battle hard up here. Another driver you talked about that was going to be someone to watch out for moving up front, Briar LaPrade, up to 7th place, leading this chain of cars that's trying to catch up to Brian Hawkett.
Bringing also the 5 of Donovan Strauss, who was very good at Nashville. Very good at the short tracks. Behind him, Tucker Minter, who, remember, we saw spun out facing the wrong way on the back straightaway after he and Kyle Reilly made some contact, avoiding a wreck. And Kyle Reilly's right behind him in that 62. Look at how that whole front grille is gone, but he's still up in the top 10.
Yeah, really making a hard charge, and that just shows of a driver that does not have front-end damage compared to what the 41 of Mercurio is dealing with. Mercurio has no front bumper, but has that engine damage, so cannot be running quick. Kyle Reilly has no front bumper, but still has a full-powered machine that can take off and keep on going. Dylan Olt, we saw be involved in that last caution, up to 15th place already, and slowly making a charge forward.
Well, you say slowly, I say flying. I mean, he was all the way back around the 25th, maybe 26th position on that restart, has picked up 10 spots since the drop of the green flag for this restart. So he's picked up a position per lap, and he is turning some fast lap times even in the midway portion of the field as well. I think that last time by, he was about the 4th or 5th fastest car on the track.
Andrew Schwartz, who we were praising that he was up in 6th place, he's still stuck on the high side. Now back in 20th place, could be dropping even further than that for this 67 machine, as he's 3 wide once again with 82 and 20. Schwartz, there might be something wrong with this 67 machine.
Well, I noticed as he was dropping back, I don't know if you can barely see it, but there is some damage to the spoiler there. Looks like he's been hit from behind in the back bumper. I was going to say that usually at a track like North Wilkesboro, aerodynamics don't really come into play that much. But maybe based on the fact that there's not a whole lot of banking to work with here, maybe that isn't the case. And I almost wonder if that rear end damage could be causing his issues.
That's something to really look and keep our eyes out on as moving ahead of this group, as they're still all on top of one another. The battling for that 4th place position slowly is looking like we're starting to see it as Evan Brinker is bringing it back in.
You know, you talked about Derek Justice getting some damage repaired because of the lengthy stay he had on pit road. He's actually right now being scored the first car 1 lap down, hoping for a caution to get back on the lead lap. Already locked into the championship 4, but you know, that's got to be huge for a driver going into 2 short track races like North Wilkesboro and Martinsville, knowing that regardless of the carnage that could take place, which short tracks are usually known for, that you're going to be going through, regardless of what your car looks like in those final 2 weeks, you're still going to be battling for a championship.
Yeah, right now Derek Justice kind of put in the same situation we saw Kane Cook in last week. So yeah, right now Justice, like you said, very that weight has to be off his shoulders for these next couple of weeks. I think if anything, it's carry the momentum and try to have the best runs that you can. But as we keep on running, our leaders, once again, they're about 5 to 10 laps away from catching up to lap traffic. And Michael Frisch has not really caught up to our leaders, as they are passing Kevin McAdams here. McAdams did not get out of the way of Frisch there, coming out of turn number 2, and almost made contact with the 58.
Michael Frisch pretty much has a gap between himself there with that lap machine of Kevin McAdams. Back to Kane Cook. Jonathan Oates has now worked his way up to the 4th position, followed by Evan Brinker, and another driver that is slowly working his way towards the front of the field that I've been noticing steadily is that 10 machine of Tucker Minter. I think he was running around the 9th position when he got spun out, as we already have alluded to. that car is laying down some very fast lap times, even though he is nearly into the rear deck lid of the 5 of Donovan and Strauss. So I would definitely watch out for Minter, because if I recall correctly, when we were at Nashville, Minter was actually up as high as second in that race. So obviously he's very good at the short tracks.
Yeah, Minter and as well as the 19 of LaPrade, they were very quick up front all race long when we were back at Nashville. So they are drivers to continue to keep your eyes out on. Strauss, I mean, that 5 machine started looking shaky, was quick but very loose. And since this run's been going on, he's been finding those steady moments and slowly has been figuring out this car, as he's now on the back bumper of Hockin. But everyone kind of is stuck where they're at, with Kane Cook being the leader of this long train.
Well, the long day gets longer for Brian Mercurio. He now has race leader Michael Cozy Jr. on his back bumper, trying to put him a lap down. And while Mercurio has had a couple of his fellow playoff drivers run into some issues here tonight, they've gotten damage, but not engine damage. Dylan Alt and Blake Reynolds have both been able to continue on, still up to speed. So, boy, Brian Mercurio, this is going to be quite a hill for him to climb when they head into Martinsville in a couple of weeks' time, if something drastically doesn't happen in the second half of this race.
Yeah, Mercurio right now about to be passed here by the 58s, now officially 1 lap down. But right now, the first car 1 lap down. But right now, I don't think that's going to last for very long, as now it's going to be John Poole III, who will be the next car in line to be 1 lap down, as Michael Cozy Jr., he's been running well, but right now with lap traffic, Michael Frisch has slowly been chipping away at that lead. He's coming.
He definitely is. Michael Frisch looks like he's got a slightly better car on the long run. I've been watching him off of turn 2 especially. He kind of lets his car ride up almost to the wall to get as much maximum straightaway speed as possible. But for Michael Cozy Jr., I mentioned the fact that he's got 2 wins this season. I was fairly certain one of them was not at a short track. That's indeed the case. He has a win at Phoenix, and he has a win at Talladega. And for Michael Cozy Jr., if he can close out this race with a victory, he would be in the Final Four. And remember, I said that one of his wins is at Phoenix, the 2008 configuration. Now, they're going to be going to a different configuration for the finale, but you'd have to think if Cozy can close out the deal tonight, advance into the Final Four, he could be one of the guys we're looking at as the favorite due to the fact he's got a previous win in the desert.
Yeah, honestly, is going to be someone that we got to keep our eyes out on for sure. As we drop back now for the battle for 6th place, Brinker is going to be side by side with the 89 of Hockin, as they're side by side behind them as well.
Oh boy, yeah, that was Tucker Minter getting awfully tight to the inside of Strauss, and again they almost make some contact.
Yeah, Strauss and Minter both have been kind of wild beasts out there. They've been struggling to try to figure out how their machines are going to handle getting off the corners. They've just been getting on the throttle just a little bit too soon, which then gets the machines out of shape, as Minter really stuck on that inside line, getting pinched by the 5. They're trying everything, every different advantage they can. But the issues is they're coming up to lap traffic, and that lap traffic is going to get in the way, as now Mercurio is going to be in the middle of this massive group here that have all been battling side by side.
Yeah, Mercurio's been running the second line here, getting passed by drivers like Oates and Hawkins, so I don't know if he'll be out of the way of this side-by-side battling between Brinker and Minter. Looks like he will move up to the outer groove, may have actually brushed the wall for his troubles to get out of the way of these lead lap machines.
And does brush the wall, and now Norton's going to get under the 41 here. Here comes Blake Reynolds now. He's trying to get himself back into the top 10 for that 3 machine, as he had some of his woes. And, everyone that's been trying to make their moves forward, they've been doing a good job so far. So far, our top 5 haven't really changed much so far, as the 3 machine now still trying to get by the 41, as this group all scattered around. But Seth, I mean, besides the 41, I mean, that's probably the most surprising incident so far for these drivers. But has there been anything else so far as we passed the halfway marker that you're kind of surprised about?
Yeah, Dylan Alt. I was fully expecting that he was going to work his way back up into the top 10, but his progress is kind of stalled out as he's almost going to loop it around there. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about him, but, he's been having some problems. Ryan Araki actually just almost lost off of 2 as well. he got up to 15th place and he has stalled out. And now I'm almost wondering that looseness we saw there off the corner, that damage he's got to the rear end, if maybe that's what's causing his problems. It's looking very similar to what we saw happen earlier with Blake Reynolds, where he worked his way up to 13th, but then he stalled out.
Yeah, I mean, the damage is going to hurt these drivers to a certain point. You're going to plateau with the drivers that were around. I mean, if these drivers, and also mainly if the cars were still fully clean, we know that Alt is one of the fastest cars out here. He got the pole, fast machine that this 40 car is, but with the damage, I mean, it kind of stalls him out around that top 15 area.
Car on the move right now. The fastest car on the racetrack is Briar LaPrade. He just got around the lap machine of Ryan Williams, and he has closed the gap up to now 2.5 car lengths between himself and Kane Cook.
Yeah, as these drivers are getting close, also the battle for the lead's getting pretty close. As they're looking very similar, and right now on this screen, you see those two cars that are really close up in front. That's going to be your battle for the lead of the 99 of Causey, and also, I mean, with Causey and Frisch trying to figure out how they're going to battle it out. And now we've got Cook and LaPrade here coming out of turn corner number 4 as they're just inching closer and closer to one another.
And I don't know if you saw in the camera shot there of the race leaders, that bright yellow car up ahead of him, that is Andrew Schwartz. So something, as you alluded to, is obviously very wrong on that Subway Ford, not nearly showing the pace that he did in the early portions of this race. And he's about to go a lap down, which would leave us with only 6 of our 8 playoff contenders running on the same lap.
Yeah, and once our leaders get by the 67 here of Schwartz, I mean, this is a race that Schwartz needed a good run. He needed to get a solid top 10 finish, try to make any type of dent into the points. But with this type of a run, you're now just banking on that other drivers points-wise in 2 weeks at Martinsville just have a terrible day, and you're able to survive that racetrack, as Martinsville is going to be chaos for these drivers, as it's going to be a lot narrower and a little bit faster to be there.
Well, you know, I took part in the FTF Cup Series over on the NR side this season, and it was actually an incident at Martinsville Speedway in the closing stages of that playoff run that eventually led to the champion of the series. So yeah, Martinsville plays a huge factor in the outcome of seasons if it's positioned in the right place in the playoff schedule. And I'm really confused about this 67 here that's just now gone a lap down, because he's now down the inside line after the 2 race leaders got around him. Now he's going back up there. It almost seemed like he couldn't even hold the bottom of the racetrack. And I'm trying to figure out what kind of problems there are that would force a car not to be able to run down the inside line. I mean, he's been right up there against that outside wall. The only thing I can think of is tires, but he was on pit road when everybody else was.
Yeah, it's not like he was completely off, as just Malello up and against the wall trying to get out of the way there. The fact that our leaders are just running so well and able to continue pushing forward, it's so confusing to see, as we're going to drop back for that battle for third place that we were talking about earlier, where we had LaPrade and Kane Cook, as Malello almost gets into McAdams there. I'm very impressed by these drivers who finally settled in, finally figured out this track. We haven't had a caution in a while. Not going to jinx it, so we're going to tap on some wood there. But these drivers have been doing a great job. But Seth, it's looking difficult now for the drivers that are further back. They're needing a caution to be closer with everyone else to possibly gain some track position, and for some drivers maybe to be wrecked out of this race completely.
Yeah, definitely. You know, for some of these drivers, like we've already talked about, Brian Mercurio and Andrew Schwartz, another playoff contender that really needs that to happen as well is Dylan Alt, because he is in the 15th position. But you look at some of the other drivers that he's battling for playoff. Oh boy, that I believe was
Alt.
Dylan Alt. Oh my goodness.
Oh boy. Well, we talked about
talking about him.
I mean, we bring up talking about these final 8, and oh, this one's so spicy. Won't caution. It's coming in at corner number 1. You'll see here the 41's going to be there, same as the 40. And there was no contact. There was a little bit of contact. Oh, as Mercurio gets shoved in the outside wall, and Alt comes down, smashes the front bumper a little bit there. Ooh, that's going to be a little interesting to see with some of the drivers that have been struggling here today having even more contact.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because there was no initial contact when the 40 car broke loose. Obviously, there was contact afterwards. I looked to see if it was possible to be close enough for net code, but it just almost looks like Dylan Alt, when he tried to get to the inside of the 41, he may have just turned it to the left a little too soon, and the back end just didn't stick.
Yeah, and Mercurio not needing any more damage, gets shoved in the outside wall, and Alt's now bumped that front bumper twice. It's not blown, but still, I mean, if your bumper's already ginger, you're not really hoping. I mean, it's a little gingerly. You don't want to make it even worse than it is.
I'm also noticing our race leaders did not come down pit road. So this means one of two things. Either when that last caution came out, everybody, when they came down pit road, they're able to make it on fuel, and they're just going to hope and pray that their tires can last the 135, 130 laps that were remaining when they went back green, or they know for absolute certain that they are going to have to come down pit road at least one more time, and they're wanting to save as many sets of tires as possible just in case we have some short, late yellows here in the latter portions of this race.
Michael Cozy Jr., who was running there up front, did pit. He'll be back in 17th place at the moment, waiting to see if anyone else comes into the pits, but he'll be the first car pitting. That's interesting to see. He was running up there in the top 3. We'll see if this 99 car can cut through the field, as well as Schwartz did pit. He'll be back in 18th place, so side by side with the 99. We'll see if both of those playoff contenders can cut through the field, as right now 21 drivers left on the lead lap.
This is also, I think, going to be a big break for another playoff contender, and that's Blake Reynolds, because we saw after the last caution, he was able to make some forward progress on a restart. This time he's going to be restarting on the inside line in the 9th position, so we'll see if he can make his way back up into the top 5. And Dylan Alt, with that wreck, he did get trapped a lap down. He will be restarting the first car 1 lap down in the free pass position should we get another quick yellow, but that spin hurt him on 2 counts.
Completely it did, as the pace truck pulls off. Michael Frisch, Kane Cook, and Brian LaPrat, your top 3 is green flag back in the air. And we're going to see here LaPrat going to try to get under Kane Cook and kind of do exactly what everyone has been doing. If you push the car on the outside and he gets stuck on that 3rd lane, he's going to get freight trained by everyone else. But Kane Cook is really making that outside line work, pushing it and almost getting right by side with Frisch.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I agree with this strategy on the part of Kane Cook, because he's running a little bit higher than I would like through the corners, and he's going to use up a lot of his tires here in doing so, trying to get that 2nd place away from Brian LaPrat. And as they're doing this, Michael Frisch is just saying, yeah, you guys keep at it. I'll keep opening up my lead.
Yeah, it's now up to a half a second. It's caution to the back. Looks like that might have been the 28 that brought this one out.
I think you're right.
We'll take a quick replay to figure out what brought out caution number 7 of the day.
Can you say 4 wide?
I mean, it sometimes isn't the best scenario to go into at a short track where you can barely go 3 wide, but we're going to see it right here. 4 wide action down the back stretch into the corner, and they still stay 4 wide, and JP3 just clips the 28 machine.
And you want to know who was right behind that? Michael Cozy Jr. So that call to come down and get fresh tires and lose all that track position almost didn't pan out for him right there.
Yeah, you want to see a different view of how all this went down? We're going to hop on board with the 99 machine for a cockpit view, and you'll see exactly the madness that this 99 machine was having as down the backstretch. They're 4 wide. They're still racing hard, and you got to slow down, go inside, and getting by. I mean, it's tires, yes, they're good to have, but is it really worth losing the track position? I mean, right now, Cozy thinks that it's the right move to make, and right now, he survived that caution. We'll see if he can survive any of the other carnage that's about to go down.
Well, I want people to remember a caution number 7 coming out on lap 124, because that could end up being the caution that decides who's going to be moving on into this final 4 for the championship. Not only does Michael Cozy Jr. get through that, but Dylan Alt gets back on the lead lap. And let's not forget, Dylan Alt and Brian Mercurio coming into this race were only separated by 4 points. With Mercurio now still trapped a lap down, Dylan Alt can begin making forward progress of the lead lap machines and possibly move back up into the top 4.
It's crazy action to be seen, and after that caution, we're going to take a quick side-by-side, and if there's anyone that comes in the pits, we'll be showing you that action. But here's our commercial here during this caution.
Since the VFW was founded, their mission was really to look out for the veterans community, to make sure that our nation upholds its promise to really care for the service member, the veteran, and his or her family. There are several ways that the VFW...
And just like that, we are stacked up, racked up, ready to go for some more racing action. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Seth Cole, as this is the FTF Grand National Series, sponsored by Splash and Go. So we've had 7 cautions so far, and Michael Frisch leads the way as we're coming to 71 laps to go.
You're looking here in this group up at the front, the 58, the 55. If they win, they're into the final 4, and both came into this race double digits behind the cutoff line. Right now, they are 1st and 3rd.
As they're still trying to figure out where they're going to be running through here. Briar LaPrade, we've stated he's quick. He's someone to watch out for. Also, the 5 of Strauss. He's been fast as well. He was the car, though, that bumped Brian Mercurio out of the way and cost the 41 a good day here, as they're all now right on top of one another, battling it out for this 5th place position.
Almost 3 wide for a brief moment there. That's a round where Michael Cozy Jr. is running in the 13th position as he's trying to find his way through traffic. He's darting low, darting high, sometimes up to that 3rd groove, trying to make passes with those fresher tires.
He's trying to find any type of position that's going to be safe, but so far, it's just been madness up in front of them, as they're still 2 wide in front, as the battle for the lead still within 3/10 right now. Brian LaPrade not letting Michael Frisch pull away.
I'm telling you what, I got to give these guys credit, though. We've only worked 7 cautions here tonight, and we've got 70 laps to go. I'm watching some of these guys with the fresher tires against the drivers in the older tires. It is so difficult to figure out the braking zones of drivers that have older tires than you, as Evan Brinker nearly goes around in front of Michael Cozy. But they've done a great job here tonight, not running each other over.
You know, we were questioning Frisch. What was he doing on that 3rd lane? I think he might have been just putting rubber up there and trying to make that 3rd lane work now, as that here comes that 67 car who's just been making the outside lane work.
Well, he's got fresh tires for one thing, but you're right. He's definitely getting the momentum, and you know what? Go where they ain't. Nobody's running that 3rd groove. If you've got the speed and you've got the grip, go up there. It's how you're going to be able to make passes, and I think Michael Cozy Jr. needs to take note of that, because I think he needs to go up there as well.
Frisch just went from 5th to 15th place up to 9th place in 2 laps because he just passed everyone on the outside. Here comes Cozy Jr. recognizing the move, and he'll be following the 67 wherever he's going now.
And here's the question. I mean, if these drivers are all good to make it on fuel, I mean, was those pit stops by the 67 and the 99, the race-winning pit stops, they almost just wrecked there on the front straightaway. So that was
my, they're wrecking now in the back.
Caution.
As they're all fanning out, and that's going to be on the front stretch, the 82 and the 84 making the contact on the front.
Well, a lot of front-end damage there for Cosmonish and No-Shoe. Tristan Hagenstein collected as well, and this was another 3-wide situation that just did not pan out off the extra.
Yeah, it really didn't. It's just too much of too many cars being 3 wide and not enough real estate for them. As coming off the corner, both drivers looking for the same spot, and they just were not clear.
Yeah, Malello wiggled in front of them, and I don't know if that played into it or not, but you could clearly see that Tristan Hagenstein tried to clear himself on Cosmos No-Shoe, was not clear, and again, another incident where I'm really surprised we didn't have more drivers collected, because you had the 82's back bumper sticking out in traffic, so really surprised that this is a somewhat wide track, especially the corners here, about 4 grooves at North Wilkesboro, but also with wrecks here, you end up seeing a lot of innocent victims get involved.
Yeah, I mean, we are now coming up to almost less than 60 laps to go once we go green again, or about to be 60 laps to go when we go green. These drivers have been putting on a show for sure. Only 8 cautions so far, and we've seen a few long green flag runs, which has been surprising to see so far. But these drivers putting on a really good show. We started with 33 drivers. We have officially only lost one. That's going to be the 66 machine.
And we're now going to have, it looks like, 23 drivers on the lead lap as the recipient of the free pass. You just saw him going around there. Brian Mercurio in the 41. So he is now back on the lead lap, and there's still going to be about, some 58 laps to go, I think, in this race, somewhere in that vicinity when they do end up getting this restart. We still can't say Mercurio is out of it, because we've already
No.
seen early incidents with Dylan Alt and Blake Reynolds. There's no saying that they, along with Kane Cook, Michael Frisch, and others, aren't going to run into issues here, because we're now into the portion of the race where push is going to come to shove. We've seen aggressive racing already, but now drivers, they're going to be more than willing to use their cars, the right and left side doors, the front and rear bumpers. I mean, they are going to be beating and banging on each other, because yes, there are drivers out here that are battling for playoff spots, but there are also a number of drivers up here just inside of the top 10 that they just want to win.
I mean, Seth, we just saw there on cams, Dylan Alt did come into the pits, got 4 fresh tires, and it's going to be now starting back in 20th place. Coming into the pits again, it's going to be Cosmonis Inochu, who was involved in that last accident. Brian McGarry, who's just been coming in, trying to get repairs done almost every caution that he can. But, doing a quick rundown, and we got Michael Frisch, Kane Cook in your top 3. And then you got Andrew Schwartz, who's finally figured out how to get back up front in 8th place with those fresher tires. And then you got Michael Cozy Jr. in 10th place, Blake Reynolds in 11th. And then you got to drop all the way down to Alt in 20th place. And then you got Mercurio in 22nd. So everyone pretty scattered right now on where they were running before. But I think right now, Frisch and Cook, they both know they need a win here if they really want to secure a chance to make it in battle for the final 4. As green flag back in the air as we're coming to 59 laps to go here, as this is going to be a wild stretch to the finish. The intensity is going to raise higher and higher.
Absolutely. Brian LaPrade got himself a good restart there, was alongside of Michael Frisch going into turn 1. I saw Frisch kind of move him up the track. Now that leaves Kane Cook and LaPrade battling for second place, as Michael Frisch continuing to pull away. I have to correct myself too. His short track win, his first win of the season, was actually at Lucas Oil Raceway. I knew it was a short track. Caution's out, by the way, and that's Jake Poulin in the back.
Jake Poulin and others avoiding, trying to make their way out of the way. Jake Poulin was the one that started that off, and other drivers trying to just move out of the way and create space if possible. But this wreck happening in the middle of the field, as Naraki looks like he'll be involved in this, as coming down the front stretch. You got Alt pushing people all out of the way as Alt actually going to crash into Naraki, and that's what started this all off.
And then you had a number of other drivers either spin while trying to avoid or slow down. Justin Malello, I think, was able to slow down in time. Andy Margot spun it around, getting hard onto the brakes.
I mean, you know that Alt had the freshest tires out there on the course, but he just was shoving people out of the way. Naraki had nowhere to go, as now pits are starting to go in. A couple of drivers thinking of coming in the pits up front, as now Michael Frisch involved with those drivers.
Yeah, I think that for Dylan Alt, he was in go mode, because I might be wrong, but I think that he took on his final set of tires, which I think that a number of the other drivers, like you were mentioning, Michael Frisch, Brian LaPrade, I think they might be doing the same. This is going to turn the race lead over to Kane Cook, so this will be his first lap lead of the day. That's going to be a very important bonus point for the 55.
And other drivers that were involved in that wreck, Derek Justice, we've stated, won last week, so was locked in for the final 4, had that off of his chest, but involved in that wreck just slightly, so hard damage. That's not too hard of damage for the 31 machine, but he's already been a 1 lap down. It just has not been Derek Justice's day so far. No,
but again, Derek Justice able to have a poor performance like this here today because of his win last week at Homestead. So, while obviously it stings for him, I know he wants to be up there battling for this win. he still is able to have the solace knowing that he's still going to be in that championship battle. But also, I would have to think that he's going to be a little bit worried because he would love to have some momentum going into that Final Four. We talk about you want to have top fives and top tens going into that championship four. You want your other three competitors to view you as a threat, to be wanting to constantly know where you are on the racetrack. And I mean, Derek Justice, his numbers here this season have certainly proved that he is a driver worthy of something like that, going to victory lane a total of 8 times. But maybe a little chink in the armor here tonight in terms of a short track.
Just a little bit, as Michael Frisch, Briar LaPrade going to be starting back in 16th and 17th. Alt's only been able to move up to 14th position as everyone is stacking up and getting ready to go. We'll see here as Donovan Strauss has just been, him and Minter, they have both been during these playoffs. They were never really contenders, but they came in, they've been showing speed and really have been drivers that have been surprising to show that these playoff guys, they're not going to be just the fastest ones at week in and week out. I think my biggest surprise right now in our top 5 has to be Norton, that 25 machine. Norton has been quick and showing pace, just not in the right spots.
Well, he's going to be restarting on the inside line of row 2 here. We'll see how good a run Kane Cook gets. Wow, that car almost came around on him as he got up through the gear.
Yeah, and also got to watch out as Andrew Schwartz is going to have the freshest tires of the cars up here as well as the 99, and they're stuck on the inside, so they're not going to be able to make that outside lane work like they were doing before.
3 wide, almost 4 wide mid-pack as the fresher tires there of Briar LaPrade, Michael Frisch trying to force their way through.
Oates also in the middle of that, trying to watch these guys. Oh my goodness. Kyle Reilly gets a little bit aggressive. Here comes the 70, I believe that's the 73 of Oates on the outside. Everyone's trying as much as they can. LaPrade, Reilly, and Oates 3 wide through 3 and 4.
They are all wadded up there behind. I think that's the 2 of Jonathan Palmieri. All these drivers on the older tires trying to find somewhere to go. Drivers on the new tires trying to go where they ain't. It's all wadded up back there.
Oates involved. There goes LaPrade, as well as the 37 involved up into the wall.
Caution's going to come out here for the 10th time. And again, the question of tires over track position. And it looks like this time Briar LaPrade's going to be on the losing end of that equation.
I mean, you can just see it from above. Here comes Olt forcing the issue and just nowhere for these drivers to go. And that pinch it's going to hurt LaPrade into the outside. Well, also gets hit by the 48. And LaPrade's day, I don't think it's completely over, but that damage is going to hurt. And we've seen damage being something that's hurting a lot of these drivers from really getting past the top 10 or even the top 5 at times.
I'll tell you one thing, though. When you are in a playoff battle, the last thing you want to do is make enemies. And that is the second time that Dylan Alt has made contact with another driver, bringing out back-to-back cautions. Yes, he had the fresher tires, but he's been super aggressive. And that is the second time at a short track in the last month or so that he has collected up Briar LaPrade. So, obviously, Dylan Alt, he's trying to do everything he can to make it into that championship 4, but at the same time, you got to make sure that you're going to not have anybody try and take you out of that championship 4, because let's not forget, Briar LaPrade's got nothing to lose right now.
No, LaPrade really doesn't. He's just been showing that he's got pace and that he's someone to watch out for possibly next season. And, just trying to show off and be like, hey, I'm someone that could honestly be a driver that could be taking this championship away from you. Even though you guys have all been here all season long, the late showing of some of the drivers that have been showing up, I mean, you've got Strauss, LaPrade, they've been showing up here. Norton's been doing a great job as well. I mean, Oates as well. I mean, you got a lot of drivers scattered throughout this field that have been showing up later in this season, but still showing, hey, we've got speed just as much as you guys do.
And, no more so than at a short track can a driver have a rather short fuse. We call it heat of the moment. And, these drivers, they're out there. They're turning these pace laps. They're not having the opportunity to be able to go back and see what the incident was, how it started. All they know is, who's around them at the time that it happened, and they draw their own conclusions. Now, maybe their opinion changes after the race when they go back and look at the incident themselves. But at this current point in time, a driver more than likely is going to single out another driver and say, that was a move that you probably should not have made. And I'm going to get even with you. Short tracks breed short tempers, and if you don't settle the score here tonight, there's another short track we're going to in 2 weeks' time.
Oh, yes, and Bristol is going to, Martinsville is going to be a wild one to see. All the short tracks have been really spectacular to watch. You never really know what you're going to get out of it. 10 cautions so far this race, as we are now going to be 45 coming to 44 laps to go for these drivers. Seth, it's still a lot of racing action to be seen here, as Kane Cook, Strauss leading the way, as those fresher tires are going to still try to figure out how to get through the field.
And just to update, Dylan Alt, Derek Justice, and Brian Mercurio, who all were laps down, are all back on the lead lap now. Justice, the most recent recipient of the free pass.
As here comes Strauss, he's going to be stuck on the inside, but here comes that 67 machine, much fresher tires, and making the outside lane work again.
Obviously, Andrew Schwartz wants to get into the Final Four, and it may be a victory that could do it for him. He's the only driver in the round of 8 that does not have a trip to victory lane this season. Could today be the day he puts a crooked number in the win column?
We question why he was on the outside lane for so long at the early parts of this race. He put the rubber in, and now you're seeing and reaping the rewards, as here comes the 67 on the outside, making the pass for the lead.
At launch, he gets on corner exit is amazing. He's about 5 to 7 miles per hour faster exiting off of 2 or 4, and you see it translate to the straightaway speed.
Michael Cozy Jr. now on the inside of Kane Cook. He'll be trying to make a pass here. They're almost 3 wide off the exit, but it's the 67 on the exit. He just flies by everybody else.
Michael Cozy Jr. right now, he has to get up there and stop the 67 from winning, because it would then be between Michael Cozy Jr. and Brian Mercurio as to who would be the one knocked out if the 67 leapfrogs them and moves up into the Final Four.
Michael Frisch is up to 4th place. He's already climbed that much. And here's the thing, he's got about 20 to 22 lap fresher tires than the front two. As they thought they had the freshest tires, watch out. Here comes Michael Frisch, now making the pass for 3rd place, and he's right there.
Michael Frisch, that time by, ran an 18.8, the 2 leaders ahead of him with an 18.9. So no doubt where the speed is with the fresher tires for the 58 car, who led the first half of this race, got himself mired back in traffic because of coming to pit road, but cutting his way back up to the front.
Alt's up to 4th. Now we've got 4 of our 8 playoff drivers in the top 4.
And if you go a little bit further back, Kane Cook in 6th, Blake Reynolds in 7th, so you've got 6 up inside of the top 7.
Right now, Al, based on all the drivers that are up front, Blake Reynolds has the freshest tires in the 3 machine, but he's stuck in 6th place with Kyle Reilly and Dylan Alt stuck on the inside.
Now the gap is really closed up between Andrew Schwartz and Michael Cozy Jr. It's kind of forced Andrew Schwartz to change up his line just the least little bit. He still goes up to that outer groove through the center of the corner, but he enters in a little bit lower to try and get dirty air to the nose of the 99. Cozy's going to have none of it, and Frisch is going to join him. It's now a 3-way fight for the lead.
Frisch is easily going to drive by these guys, but it's more so of when they stop being side by side. The longer that they stay side by side, this is going to bring Dylan Alt in, as well as Blake Reynolds. And Michael Frisch is hating this. He needs to get by both these drivers as quick as possible, so the 40 and the 3 cannot get there. And they're there now, as it's now going to be a dogfight between 5 drivers here, possibly for the lead.
And look who else is in this battle. Non-playoff contender Kyle Reilly, who coming into this race has 3 top 10s, 0 top 5s. He may get his first career top 5 here tonight.
No front bumper, not needed. The engine's still cooking good, and here comes that 62 machine. But up front, side-by-side action, as here comes that Michael Cozy Jr. in the 99. But here comes Frisch, 3 wide for the lead.
Contact going to be made between Cozy and Frisch as Schwartz continues to doggedly stay on that outside line. He keeps drawing just about even off the corner.
4 wide possibly, as here comes Blake Reynolds on the inside.
They made some contact there, did Reynolds and Frisch. Reynolds almost got out of shape, has to gather it back up and try again. It's now Frisch and Cozy for the lead.
When they cross the line, 32 laps to go. Still plenty of racing to happen, but right now, this is the battle to see who will be taking the lead, as a lot of these drivers have already made their final pit stops for tires from about 4th on back. Right now, Frisch trying to pull off and pull away, but it's going to be hard once Blake Reynolds gets by the 99.
Look at the red spoilers 1st through 5th. These drivers know what's at stake, a win tonight, and you are into the Final Four at Phoenix, as now the battle will be for 2nd. Blake Reynolds trying to swing the outside of Michael Cozy Jr.
Derek Justice, that was stuck a lap down for so long, he's just cracked the top 10.
Where in the world did he come from? He was the recipient of the lucky dog under the last caution. He had to cut his way through traffic, has picked up at least 23 spots since we went back green.
And they still continue on further and further. Briar LaPrade, who we saw Dylan Oates having a little bit of an altercation, as they tap once again. As it just continues to be beaten and begging between the 40 and the 19 week after week.
I don't know how these two seem to find each other in the same place at the same time at the short tracks, but now it's a battle for the 5th position. Sean Butler now in the mix there in the 35, and there is Justice in that Baskin-Robbins Supra.
Justice is on the same strategy as the 3 machine of Blake Reynolds. They're on the same freshest of tires. They're still 3 wide back there. Woo!
I thought they were going to be 4 wide for a brief moment. I was just waiting for it.
If they scattered the right way, they could have been 5 wide for a second. All just beating and banging on everyone now. If you're in the way, get out of the way. This 40 machine is not willing to wait for anybody.
Boy, I'll tell you what, he's unsponsored, but he might as well be sponsored by Battering Ram because he is using every bit of that race car. Almost contact again between himself and Derek Justice, as Justice will try and split Alt and Butler 3 wide.
And will do so. Finally gets by Butler. Now he's going to get onto the inside groove and try to make the inside moving forward. Schwartz, those tires are finally given out, it looks like, for that 67, as I don't think he can really hold on for much longer. He's probably going to start dropping back here soon.
As we've seen a number of our playoff drivers up here at the front, one driver that this strategy did not work out for was the 55 of Kane Cook. Remember, he stayed out under the last 2 cautions to lead us to the green. He's now drifted back to the 12th position.
And it just continues to drift back. Luckily, he's got some space around him where no one else is trying to make any passes, but Derek Justice now has secured 5th place and now going to be trying to run down Briar LaPrade. And that battle for the 1st place, Blake Reynolds is there on the back bumper of Michael Frisch.
Blake Reynolds, who is a 6-time winner this season, has a couple of wins when it comes to short tracks. He's got a win at Bristol. The car that he's trying to reel in there, Michael Frisch, also a short track winner. May come down between these two in the closing stages of this race, but typical short track, there's traffic up ahead.
Lap traffic right in front of these drivers, 23 laps to go, and Michael Frisch trying to get the win, lock himself into this thing. He was the driver that was last in points coming into this race, and what an upset this would be, but caution in the back.
And it's going to be Adam Kodal, I believe, in the 32, who's facing up against the wall in turn 3.
And it looks like everyone able to get by cleanly, and oh man, things were ramping up, and if you got tires, it might be time to use them now, as we'll take a quick replay for Kodal and see what happened to this 33 machine.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing any contact taking place. Oh, yeah, actually there was. I think that might have been Dylan Alt again, who actually drifted into turn 1.
Got more into the wall, and that's just going to hurt the 40 machine. No bumper to protect that engine, so that's nerve-wracking for the 40 machine that's just been so aggressive and trying to gain everything possible.
I'm not certain how Andrew Schwartz didn't get a little piece of that, as the 40 drifted right across his nose.
As drivers now coming into the pits. Oh, Strauss is going to be one of the cars coming in. Minter, Brinker, as well as the 41 of Mercurio coming in. Mercurio heavily damaged, but with fresher tires, you never know what's going to happen. As, the 67 still had tires to work with.
So Andrew Schwartz, who looks like he'll be restarting in 15th, Kane Cook in 16th. Couple of your playoff contenders, and remember that 67 has that 3rd groove. This is going to be fun to try and watch him again.
We've seen this the last couple of short tracks where drivers with fresh tires try to make that 3rd lane work. It's on the back stretch and the front stretch when drivers are trying to merge back together when we start to see some chaos ensue. I don't think we're done with cautions just yet. We just hit 20 laps to go at this point. We're going to go racing green with less than 20 laps to go. Seth, do you think overtime might be possible here?
Oh, no doubt. I think overtime is definitely possible. And I think that because of what you just said, and I fully agree with you that we are not done with cautions, is a big reason why I think this is a huge advantage for Andrew Schwartz, because he's going to be able to go up to that 3rd groove, which we've seen him be able to work. He'll be able to pick up some spots. And, let's say that we end up having 3 or 4 cautions back to back to back to back. If we only even get 1-lap sprints, that could be 2 or 3 positions that Schwartz could pick up on that outside line on each one of these restarts. So
the only issue is he's going to be starting on the inside lane, and this is going to be if he was starting on the outside lane, I'd be nervous for the rest of the field. But he is starting on the inside. Kane Cook is going to be on his outside. We'll see if Kane Cook feels a little safe to go for that third lane, but. Up front, it's going to be Michael Frisch, Blake Reynolds, and Michael Cozy Jr., your top 3. Derek Justice is going to be back in 5th place for that 31 machine. Luckily, he's already locked in. He doesn't have to worry if he gets involved in an accident here, but we've seen about 3 wrecks of cars being up front. You're not safe, even if you're the leader up here.
No, absolutely not. And this is getting to the point in time as well where drivers are going to be more likely to stay on the throttle than use the brakes. And so if we do have a wreck take place further up towards the front of the field, we're probably going to see a lot more drivers mid-pack and rear of the field get collected up in it.
Green flag back in the air, and Michael Frisch, a great restart, able to get in front of Reynolds there. Reynolds going to drop down. Side-by-side action is going to be happening for that 4th place position. But the question is, when will Kane Cook try to make the passes made, as they are all 3 wide back there? As we stay up front just to continue watching this, Kane Cook is coming, though, as they're 4 wide back in the middle of the pack.
That's the second time we've been 4 wide. Kane Cook made the initial 4 wide, turn 1 on that restart.
Ooh.
Contact with Schwartz. Brinker, and there's a spinner. It's Kane Cook. Another
Kane
spinner.
Cook, Mercurio gets spun around.
Yes.
Kane Cook bringing out this caution, and he does not look happy for that 55 to be spun around. We'll figure out what exactly happened to him, as well as Mercurio on these replays.
Yeah, I think it might have been the 37 of Oates and Walsh that might have been to the inside of him.
Oh, it was netcode with Cosman. And then, I think the 33 might have spun the 41 there. Woo!
Man, I mean, that's got to be so frustrating for Kane Cook, but it's one of those situations where you really can't blame it on another driver because it clearly is netcode. And you got to wonder, those fresh tires, just how worn they would be there with that somewhat small spin.
I mean, yes, even with the spin, it's going to be hard to start making moves forward, as we're going to take the replay now to see exactly what happened to Mercurio. As when he came into this corner, it was 3-4 wide racing, nowhere to go, bumps that driver out of the way, and the 33, he had to hold his line, and Mercurio had nowhere to go, getting spun around.
The driver right now, I don't think would mind seeing quite a number of more cautions here as we draw close to the end of this race, would be Michael Frisch, because every lap that he leads under caution is 1 less lap that he has to worry about Blake Reynolds, Brian LaPrade, and Michael Cozy Jr. behind him. Now, obviously, we do have the potential for those overtime green-white checkers to take place as well, but Michael Frisch, I think, at least for the time being in these final 10 to 12 laps, wouldn't mind just running this 45-mile-per-hour pace, ticking these laps away.
Looking at drivers that just pitted, driver with the freshest tires on track is going to go to Ryan Williams back in 26th position. I don't think that he's going to be making any charge forward. He has been involved in multiple accidents here. The drivers that pitted on that last caution, though, leading the way, it's going to be Tucker Minter as well as Donovan Strauss. Those 2 drivers have been quick and they have been fearless while driving out here. Only issue, they're running out of time. When we go green, it's going to be less than 10 laps to go.
And as you know, Sam, when it comes to these type of short track races, the aggressiveness never dies down. These drivers are going to continue to battle tooth and nail with each other. I did notice a driver that was actually off the lead lap. That was Brandon Hawken, who I don't know if he got the free pass under this yellow. I don't think he did. I think Ryan Williams did. But Brandon Hawken, I was kind of wondering why he was a lap down. Brandon Hawken actually spent about 10 laps completely sideways in these corners. I think he may be one of the few drivers in the field that does not have a set of tires left.
I'm looking to see, and I think he might be right for that 89 machine, or he just was being caught up in some instances where he just could not get out of it. But Seth, we're racked up, stacked up, ready to go here, and it is going to be exactly 10 laps to go on this restart. But I think you and I both know we might be seeing another caution before this race is over as pace truck is up. It's going to be Michael Frisch, Blake Reynolds leading the way, and Frisch, he didn't get enough of a restart there. They're side by side.
The question of where to look. Oh, we got Oates and Walsh sideways in turn 1. He gets into a rocky big wreck in turn 2.
Oh, Evan Brinker is well involved with that one as the 37 still sideways there. And, Walsh, he tried, involved in another one.
Yeah, it was hard to tell if maybe he kind of drifted into the corner. No, he got some help going into turn 1 from the 5 of Donovan Strauss. That's what sent him up into Naraki and Brinker, and Andrew Schwartz dodges another one. Kane Cook, how in the world did he sneak through that?
Well, we're going to figure out how he did. As you saw there, the subway machine got through, but Kane Cook is the driver. We're going to be taking a little bit of a cockpit view here of exactly what happened during this time, because he needed that opening, and then when he got up to that front end, but man, was that close.
Definitely was. Another driver that almost got a piece with the left front was Brian Mercurio. So, 3 of our playoff contenders mired back there in traffic were able to by the skin of their teeth, closely make their way through that incident.
That was Evan Brinker's point of view for that accident on that restart. This next one is going to be Kane Cook's, but just by the cockpit view, you just see the drivers being helpless of what's going on in front of them there and really having nowhere to go. And here's Kane Cook's point of view, seeing Schwartz driving it down deep, somehow getting out of the way, and then, please open up, and it does.
Problem for those guys back there, though, is these laps now continuing to tick away. When we had Kane Cook and Andrew Schwartz on those fresher tires, they were up in around the 13th, 14th, 15th position, somewhere in that vicinity. They're still back there. They haven't been able to make any forward progress because they've had to be on the brakes or off the throttle, getting through these incidents ahead of them. That's really been hurting them.
It's been the biggest loss is the time, and maybe with 2 laps they can gain maybe about 6 positions at most. That's really hoping for the best. But the longer this goes on, I believe if we have another caution here on this next restart, we're going to green, white, checkered racing, and I don't remember if it's a 1 or 3 attempts, Seth, for this league.
For this league, it is 3 attempts that they would have here for a green, white, checkered overtime finish. And also just looking in terms of the playoffs, we know Derek Justice is already locked in. That wounded car is up in 6th position with Michael Frisch leading this race. If he were to win, he would move obviously into the final 4. Blake Reynolds running in 2nd, and Michael Cozy Jr. running in 4th. Those would be the 4 drivers in the 4 playoff spots heading into Martinsville in 2 weeks' time. And the thing I got to wonder here, too, you've got that off week next week. We've got the actual NASCAR Xfinity night race at Martinsville, so that's why the off week's being taken here for FTF. So you've got an extra week to think about the paperclip short track.
Yeah, a lot of practice trying to get yourself ready mentally for this, but this could be our final restart of the day. They're stacked up, racked up, ready to go. 13 cautions so far. Michael Frisch on the outside, on the inside. Blake Reynolds on the outside. As base truck pulls off, green flag back into the air as we're going 4 laps to go, but will we see another early caution?
We'll have to wait and see as they are 3 wide mid-pack. That is Norton making that move. Also 3 wide ahead with Reilly, Oates, and Minter. So far, giving each other enough room to make it through.
Minter is coming. He's on the freshest of tires in that 10 machine. 3 laps to go, but they're right behind him.
Oates is going to clip Dylan Alt on the front stretch. Kane Cook's involved. Norton, the track's blocked. The track's completely blockaded.
As everyone's trying to figure out how to scatter through there, as Alt's heavily damaged. Mercurio doesn't even have a hood now. Oh boy. Where did that even start?
Or no, that wasn't Derek Justice. That's Cosmos and No Shoe there. He's got no hood. Oh, man.
Kane Cook has no hood either. Kane Cook has heavily damaged, and I believe this started up around, this started around Oates.
Rich Jameson was involved in that. His whole front end is ripped off. Will Norton, his front end is ripped off.
Seth, on my end, I think Kane Cook's done.
Yeah.
He has parted it.
Boy, don't want to go into Martinsville in a must-win situation. That's all I can tell you. with the fact that Kane Cook had his struggles last week at Homestead. His DNFing here tonight will finish, it looks like, in the 31st position. Oh, man, it's going to be a must-win for the 55.
I mean, this scattering just is a melee. I don't know how Schwartz came out with a hood at all, as he had to back down, swerves, get caught up by Brinker, and everyone else just nowhere to go with their cars. Oh man, Seth, going in overtime, who is still alive in this thing, really?
Basically the top 4, I think. Maybe 6 of the top 7 have been in this race with very little contact.
Well, up front, we're still our top 5 actually, the same. You go back to Butler now in 6th. Minter has worked his way up to 7th. Freshest tires, got to keep that in mind. He really, in those first 2 laps, was making some heavy moves forward and had a quick car. He was just being stalled out down the backstretch where he really had no space to make moves. Kyle Reilly, he's looking for a top 10 finish here. And then, from 8th on back, everyone else has so much damage to deal with. Strauss has no front bumper. Brinker has no front bumper. And, oh my God, how is Brian Mercurio is in the top 15?
Yeah, he's still continuing on. I mean, yeah, he got some damage there from that wreck, but I mean, that just adds on to the damage he had before. So why bother coming down pit road? Your car already looks like it's been through a hailstorm or something. Why not stay out, try and keep that track position? Because he really has to do this. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe Michael Frisch doesn't win this race. Maybe Michael Cozy Jr. gets spun on this final green-white checkered. I mean, there's so many different scenarios. You just can't give up that track position if you're the 41.
And the question is, will the 10 fight tooth and nail to get the win here with those fresher tires, or will he let the drivers in the playoffs fighting for the championship, just let them race it out? Only time will tell as we're stacked up, ready to go. Seth, I mean, this is it. This is the second race of the round of 8. And this is setting up Martinsville to be a wild race for sure. Our first attempt at a green-white checkered is on. Green flag in the air. Minter already making it 3 wide for 5th place. And early caution in the back.
Caution's going to come out. Oh, Brian LaPrade and Minter got together as well. They were to turn 1 just after the caution was thrown.
Oh my goodness. So many cars scattered around. And Oates in the pits. I think he immediately went to the pits.
I think he might have very well been the reason for this caution coming out.
Oh, when he tried to get going, he didn't go at all. As you'll see here, restarts are going on, and his engine blows, and so then he's just forced up into the wall and nowhere to go. Comes to a stop, and that's what brings out the caution. And then, like you said, more issues for some of the other drivers out there. Man, there's just chaos ensues in front of these drivers.
I mean, we ran, 195 laps of this race. All 8 of our playoff contenders were still in the race, even though some had been involved in some crashes. We've just run the last 7 laps, and 2 of our playoff drivers are now out. Dylan Alt with the engine problem. Kane Cook caught up in the last wreck, our 14th caution.
As we'll figure out what exactly happened to Minter there on that restart. As that 10 machine got contact with LaPrade, and now, Minter just came in with such a head of steam and bumped LaPrade, just went up into Butler there, and LaPrade was able to sit as well. They didn't hit the wall, which is lucky for them, but still, man, this has been getting scrappy at the end of this race.
It definitely has, and it's been quite a number of the non-playoff drivers that have been really making those aggressive moves. We've seen Michael Frisch and Blake Reynolds, Michael Cozy Jr., they've actually kind of settled it out amongst themselves, getting single file and then getting ready to kind of set up their moves here in the closing stages. So they got to keep an eye on what's going on behind them for sure. We've still got 2 more attempts here for the green-white checkered, and if I'm Michael Frisch, I'm changing it up every single restart. We've seen him get some really good launches, but I think that he's got to have Blake Reynolds caught flat-footed, because we know that Blake has slightly fresher tires, about 8-lap fresher tires. Now, I don't know, based on the fact that both of them have run almost 50 laps on their tires, if that kind of evens it out or not.
I'm looking right now at the drivers that are in the back of the field that have DNF'd out of this race. Dylan Oates, Kane Cook. Both drivers needing good days as they were outside of their top 4 in points coming into this race, and they had the speed, but they could not finish out this race. It's heartbreaking for those drivers that had the top 5 potential.
This is how the playoff system really changes things up because in this case, I would say if somebody else was leading this event, that Dylan Alt, despite this DNF finish, doesn't necessarily go into Martinsville in a must-win situation, but with Michael Frisch being 8th of the 8 playoff drivers, if he wins and leapfrogs Dylan Alt, it could very well be that the 40 is going into Martinsville in a must-win situation.
Yeah, because then it would turn into chasing down Michael Cozy, who's right now running in 3rd place, and try to figure out how to get by that 99 car, who's been up front, looking consistent here week after week. So it's going to be difficult for a lot of drivers to even try to beat this 99 car and try to cut into the points.
Well, here we go again. Second attempt at a green-white checkered, and ooh, Frisch stacked him up behind him.
Frisch tried something a little bit different, and right now they're going to be stacking up, trying to making that bumper as big as possible. As Frisch finally able to get up in front of Reynolds as they're coming around turn number 3. Get to the white flag. This thing will end on the next flag.
Oh, look at Minter, 3 wide on the top, but he just doesn't have enough time, I don't think. Frisch did take the white flag.
White flag out in the air as now here comes the 58 of Michael Frisch. He came into today with being 8th in points. Can he get the win, though?
Blake Reynolds, he's going to drive it deep here into 3. Doesn't get to the bumper, though, and Frisch is going to close the deal.
Michael Frisch has punched his ticket into fighting for a championship in 3 weeks at Phoenix at the Min. This is going to be insane to see. Michael Frisch, he's done it again.
How incredible is it that Michael Frisch's ticket into the playoffs took place at a short track at Lucas Oil, and here his ticket into the Final Four, fittingly, at a short track yet again at North Wilkesboro.
Getting some bumps from the drivers that are in the playoffs and congratulating them. And there's Derek Justice already punched his ticket. And there's Shieldhouse, Hawken, all trying to show their respects to the 58 that will be battling for the championship with Derek Justice. The question is, in 2 weeks, Seth, Martinsville's going to be the track to figure out who's going to get those 2 final spots. And it is going to be intense just based on what we saw here today.
No, it definitely is. I mean, one driver's going to point their way in at least, maybe 2. There is no guarantee that one of our 6 remaining playoff drivers is going to win at Martinsville. So, yeah, it's going to be crazy just based on what we saw here tonight. I mean, it was kind of a 50-50. 50% of our playoff contenders finished well. The other 50 kind of struggled during the course of this race.
As here is our top 10. Michael Frisch, Blake Reynolds, Michael Cozy Jr., and then it's going to be Sean Butler, Tucker Minter with those fresh tires, only able to get up to 5th place. Briar LaPrade, after being involved with a lot of altercations with the 40 machine, was able to get a 6th place finish. David Shieldhouse, able to get that 20 machine up here. And the biggest surprise, I think, has to be that driver that got in the 8th position.
Yeah, where in the world did Elliot Henderson come from? I think maybe a big reason why he finished up there is attributed to maybe we didn't really see him because he snuck through a lot of the wrecks. We were watching more of the cars that were spinning and wrecking rather than the cars that were getting through. What a comeback finish for him.
And then you got Evan Brinker, who didn't have a front bumper or even, I think, a hood to finish out this race in 9th place. Derek Justice, who was caught up in some instances, a couple of laps down, had to fight his way to get on the lead lap, gets a top 10 finish for himself.
And Brandon Hawken, as we go to the second sheet here, he got 11th place. He got the lucky dog for the first overtime caution.
Andrew Schwartz now going to get 12th place after him just trying so many different strategies. And I think that's what he kind of had to do into this race. He couldn't really follow what the quote status quo was. He had to try something different. It worked there for about the last 50 laps until we got about 20 laps left where the carnage just started piling on. John Poole III, Ryan Williams. I mean, Ryan Williams, he was the last car on the lead lap there with about 20 laps to go.
Yeah, and I'm looking right now as well, a little bit further on down at some of these other guys, and a lot of these drivers were damaged goods. Ryan Naraki, he had a lot of rear end damage. Jonathan Paul Murray, he had front end damage. Kyle Reilly, I'm not sure what happened to him there on that final restart, because I think he restarted around the 6th position, maybe the 8th position on the top side of rows 3 or 4. He drifted way back to 18th place, but still an overall good showing for him, as he was very competitive despite that car not having a front bumper.
And then we drop down to 21st position. That's where we're going to find Mercurio, who honestly, after about 50 laps of him trying to get repairs done, that's where he stayed all race long, was in 21st position. Almost had a chance to get inside the top 20, just not enough there with too much of a damaged vehicle.
And right now, Brian Mercurio, as well as Andrew Schwartz, I'm trying to quickly do calculations in my head, and it's almost looking like they are both going to find themselves about 20 points behind Michael Cozy Jr. for that 4th and final playoff position. Only 32 drivers will be taking the green flag at Martinsville in 2 weeks' time. I don't necessarily know if that might mean they could possibly be in must-win situations when we get to that short track.
And going through, Oates was not able to finish out this race in 29th place. Kane Cook 31st, and the rest of the other drivers were not able to finish out this race either. But Seth, I mean, North Wilkesboro kind of gave us exactly what we were expecting: chaos, carnage, and a surprise at the end.
Yeah, North Wilkesboro obviously begins with the letters NO. I think that stands for no one is safe, because there were very few of our playoff contenders that didn't meet with some kind of adversity here today. A lot of them had to battle their way through, but in the case of guys like Dylan Alt and Kane Cook, boy, they've dug quite a hole for themselves to try and advance into that Final Four at Phoenix.
They certainly have. Seth, I'm going to leave the interviews to you, and we will start off with a driver in 3rd place.
Hey, Michael, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Hi, what's up?
Well, man, a lot of pressure on you coming into tonight's race. You came in 4th of the 8 playoff contenders, right there on the cut line. Pretty much everybody behind you kind of compared to where you were in the standings. Was that weighing on your mind at all, taking to a track as difficult tonight as North Wilkesboro?
I had the pre-race poos. It was that bad. My stomach was all knots. I don't like this playoff stuff. I really don't. I'm not a fan, especially with how good these guys are in this league. And I usually consider myself pretty good at short tracks, but I really suck at Wilkesboro. I don't feel like I suck after tonight, but I just really hadn't run a lot of. I don't think I'd run a single race here since it's been out, but I mean, obviously I've turned some laps, but all my credit really tonight goes to Derek Justice, because he told me what I should do on the long run settings wise, and it actually worked, because usually I just wing it every week. So big thanks to him for showing me how to not suck.
You talked about your nervousness coming into this race. At one point, you decided to come down pit road, take on one of your set of tires, and started towards the back, pitting from the race lead. And we saw you have to kind of dodge a couple of wrecks there just a couple of laps after. I mean, how difficult is it to maneuver your way not only through traffic, but also through the wrecks with how congested this track is?
Man, I was really hoping you wouldn't ask me about that. Why did I pit with 80 to go? I don't know. I really thought that actually I didn't think a whole lot. That's why I did that. So yeah, that was really silly. And I honestly had a better time coming up through there than I thought I would. I've been having Q bar issues for a while. So like my connection to iRacing has been kind of wonky. So everybody's like warping a little bit on my end. And I haven't been able to hear anybody on voice chat really, because they're all breaking up. But somehow I weaseled my way through there. I don't know, man. I'm so thankful to come out of here with a 3rd.
Well, obviously, Michael, a great run for you here tonight. You mentioned the fact that you were nervous about this racetrack. Looks like you're going to have a pretty good buffer between yourself and some of the other guys that are trying to take that spot in the playoffs away from you. But how worried are you going into Martinsville now, knowing that there is the possibility that some of those guys below you, if they go to victory lane, you maybe could get forced out of the Final Four?
Yeah, I didn't. I like Frisch. I'm happy he won. I didn't want to see him win though, because I know it makes it a little bit harder on me. But if I was going to have any confidence whatsoever, it'd be next week. I consider Martinsville my best track, probably on the service. I can't remember the last time I drove a B car around there, but I'm sure I can figure it out. So if honestly, if I was going to win anywhere, it'd be there. I was really surprised by speed tonight. So if I could figure out what I did here tonight and take it to Martinsville, hopefully you'll see me up there again. And not stepping on my Johnson there with the strategy.
Well, Michael, obviously tremendous momentum for you after tonight's race, heading into that Martinsville event. We look forward to seeing that battle for who's going to get those final 2 spots into the final 4. But now we're going to turn the microphone over to you. Let's do some shout outs.
Hey, sorry, I was looking at Monster Jam over my TV there. I didn't know that was going on. Once again, thanks to Derek for showing me what to do. That always helps. And my other teammate David, I didn't see where he finished. Oh, you had a good top 10. All right, that's good. Thanks to everybody for putting everything together at FTF. Sorry if I screwed anybody tonight racing. It was kind of hard to tell again with everybody was lagging a little bit. I want to thank all my Twitch subs and all my YouTube members and everybody who's on the car. I couldn't download my paint scheme tonight, unfortunately, but they're on there, and I really appreciate that. I couldn't do without them. And everybody who makes the league go. I appreciate it, man. It's a really good time tonight.
Well, that's Michael Cozy Jr. brings it home 3rd place tonight at North Wilkesboro, and good luck in 2 weeks' time when you guys head to the Paperclip Short Track of Martinsville. Let's see if we can now get our 2nd place finisher, Blake Reynolds. Hey, Blake, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, sir.
Well, we saw pretty much all of the drivers that finished up inside of the top 5 and the top 10 have to deal with traffic at some point in this race. And we saw you actually at one point during the first half of this race work your way from about 25th up to 15th, but then it just kind of stalled out. Was that just because you started getting up to some faster race cars, or that they were racing double wide ahead of you, or were the tires finally starting to even out?
Well, I got in that crash kind of early. The 66 got in my left rear and spun me around. And then I didn't pit after that. I just kept my damage. I had 4 minutes of damage, and I fixed it up by the end of the race to 3.5 just through pit stops. I didn't actually try to fix it, but that kind of played a factor there. I was able to drive up to, I think, 12th or 15th, you said, around there. And it just kind of, I held station just because, I felt like my car wasn't good enough to be there, but my tires were good enough because a lot of people were overdriving at the start. So that's kind of the reason I kind of held position there. But obviously tire strategy took place, and that's kind of how I got up to the front there.
Obviously at a short track, we end up seeing in the closing stages of the race, drivers be willing to use their bumpers to try and pick up not only positions, but also, the race win. You came into this race 15 points to the good. If you were close enough there to that 58, were you planning on using the chrome horn to try and lock yourself into the final 4?
I thought about it, but I couldn't hold, or I couldn't tell myself to do it, I guess, is a way to put it. I don't know. Michael P's a cool guy, so I didn't want to really do it to him. And then I don't really think I'm going to have too much trouble at Martinsville. Obviously, it's Martinsville, but a lot like here, I was in a crash and I still finished 2nd. So if you crash correctly at a short track, there is a way to still be fast later on, just keep your car in one piece. So it came across my mind, yes, to answer your question, but I really was not going to do it.
You brought up... Oh, sorry, Sam.
Oh, Blake, I was just going to ask, it seemed like the aggression level for everyone kind of just start off right off the bat. Were you surprised on how aggressive even the non-playoff drivers were racing?
Absolutely. The 66, man. I was in the channel with Kevin McAdams, and apparently he almost wrecked Kevin twice. And then, I was like, okay, I'll keep that in the back of my mind, look out for him. Next thing I know, I'm in that channel up there with 10 people in here. Oh, there's a wreck. And I'm like, okay. And I go into turn 1, and the 66 just like he threw his brake pedal back to last week, He just didn't even slow down, it seemed like. And he just dove it in there and hit my left rear. I tried to save it, but then obviously I was going slow and the field was coming and everyone just kind of piled in.
Well, Blake, obviously a good comeback run for you, as you mentioned, getting caught up in that wreck. You bring it home to finish in the 2nd position. No doubt you're going to have a nice cushion continue into Martinsville in 2 weeks' time. So, we look forward to seeing if you can keep the consistent runs up heading into that championship battle at ISM in a few weeks' time. We're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Sure thing. Everyone at FTF, and the admin team. They know who they are. I don't want to name them because I'm going to forget one and then they get mad at me. So I'll say that. You guys, FRN, you guys do a great job. A definite improvement throughout the season. You guys are definitely becoming one of the top premier iRacing broadcasters, in my opinion, over some that have a red, a blue, and a yellow stripe on their branding. Yeah, and then I guess I'll thank Kyle Reilly, Scuderia Meatball Marinara. Is the team name, I think, in FTF. I think I got that right. And I forget who my teammate is. It's such a meme. I don't even know what to say. But yeah, and then I'll thank Coca-Cola for being on my car in the Coke series and in here.
Well, that's Blake Reynolds, runner-up here tonight at North Wilkesboro. Congrats on a great run there, Blake, and enjoy your off week. Look forward to seeing you get back to it at Martinsville.
All right, thanks, guys.
And let's go down to Victory Lane for the 4th time this season, moving him up to 3rd on the win list, Michael Frisch. Hey, Michael, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
How you doing, boys?
Well, man, I said when you crossed the line, it seemed only fitting that you got a short track win for your first win of the season. You punch your ticket into the Final Four again at a short track. How much were you sweating there on those final green-white checkered runs?
I had drops coming down my face. I was sweating those last couple laps because I knew Blake was just gonna charge it on me one of those laps and just race me as hard as I can. And it came down to just I don't even know. I can't even put words into my mouth right now. I'm just so excited I got this one because I basically told everybody this week that this is my track, that this is my strong suit here, and I'm gonna go out and win this thing. It's do or die, and I just can't believe I did it.
So with that attitude, did you approach North Wilkesboro tonight kind of as a must-win situation so that way you wouldn't have to rely on maybe consistent finishes at wildcard tracks like this and Martinsville in 2 weeks?
Yep. As soon as what happened last week in the situation I was put in, I just said to myself, just put all the pressure off on yourself and just go out and win this thing. It's a short track. You can do this. It's your track, and just put your mind to it. And I did it. Put the gas to it.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, coming to the end of there was a lot of cautions coming up at the end. What was your mindset just seeing all the cautions that were coming in?
I think I took my maybe 40 to go, and then we got that maybe 15 lap green flag, and then me and Blake were he had a little bit better, fresher tires than me, but we were talking before I got pulled here that he had a lot of damage and he couldn't pull me on the straight, so that was a little nice to know that I kind of maybe had that in my back pocket. But if it wasn't green, I could have seen people maybe going like Minter getting back up there. People who took tires definitely getting up there for sure, making it interesting.
We saw quite a number of the drivers that finished up there in the top 5, decide to come down pit road, give up track position and take on tires and then have to work their way back up through the field. You were no exception. How difficult was it being able to aggressively but patiently work your way through the field, knowing that there were drivers up ahead of you that could not attack the corner entry like you could?
You nailed the word patience. You got to pick your battles very carefully here. And usually if you can run the bottom without, people getting in your way and they'll give you a little bit of room and just hook it, you're pretty safe. But then again, you got the high line, but the safest place personally, I think, is the bottom. And you just you gotta work it. You gotta work it how the lanes are moving sometimes, the high side's going, sometimes the bottom's getting checked up, and you got to move around. I think one of them restarts, someone got old tires on the restart, and I basically almost had to avoid them going into 2, and I had to sweep up really high. So that was nerve-wracking.
Well, Michael, obviously, you've got the off week coming up this week, but you get to head into Martinsville in 2 weeks' time, completely worry-free. You know that you're going to be able to now focus on Phoenix to be able to battle for that championship. So it's got to be such a load off your mind. We're now going to let you do some shout-outs.
Shout out my boy, Bar Visuals. He's at Texas today doing the point, shoot, and click as he does. And all my boys, Andrew, Brian. I hate that Brian had a horrible run. And David, Reilly, everybody who basically runs tonight, all the boys, everybody who shows up. They're the one who puts on the shows and all the admins. Can't thank them enough.
Well, that's Michael Frisch. We know that he's now going to be one of the championship 4 when we get to Phoenix Raceway in about 3 weeks' time. Congratulations on a great run here tonight, Michael. Your 4th of the season, and good luck at Martinsville, obviously, but we know that you're going to be having your eyes on the prize there at Phoenix.
Thanks, guys.
Well, Seth, I mean, now that we're winding down from that intense over 200 lap race here at North Wilkesboro for FTF Grand National Series, I mean, what were some of your final thoughts there as we're still trying to calm down from that?
Well, we saw the short track racing here tonight at North Wilkesboro. I'm expecting exactly the same thing when we get to Martinsville next week. The thing that's going to be interesting now is because we know Justice is locked in. We know Frisch is locked in. I think we can safely say with a second place run here tonight, the cushion he had, Blake Reynolds is locked in. So now the question is, who is that 4th and final drivers? Michael Cozy Jr. said he came into this race with butterflies in his stomach. I think he's going to have the same sensational feeling when he gets to Martinsville because he's the deer in the headlights. He's the guy everyone's gunning for, trying to knock him out of that 4th and final playoff position. I'm looking at these remaining 4 playoff contenders below the cut line. Dylan Alt, Andrew Schwartz, Kane Cook, and Brian Mercurio. I think all 4 of them need to find victory lane if they're to wrestle that 4th and final spot away from Michael Cozy Jr. For Michael Cozy Jr., he's got to do one of 2 things. He's either got to stay out of trouble and finish consistently enough so that way he keeps those guys at bay, or he's got to go out there and win the thing himself so that way they don't.
Yeah, if anything, Michael Cozy Jr. just needs to aim for a top 10 finish, and he might be pointing his way in. But I'm nervous for Michael Cozy Jr. Like he stated during his interview, there was some internet connection stuff that he was worried about. He really couldn't see everyone clearly, and he felt like he might have been involved in some stuff. That makes me feel worrisome if he cannot get that issue figured out. And that's the one thing about virtual racing is internet is something to worry about as an error that can help you and hurt you during these races.
Yeah, and also Dylan Alt and Kane Cook both have wins at short tracks this season. So you know that they're going to be up there at the front at Martinsville. Andrew Schwartz, I don't necessarily put him in the same category of a short track racer as the other ones, but tonight he proved me wrong. Those fresh tire strategy that he had worked his way up as high as 5th place. I mean, he's definitely a dark horse you've got to watch out for as well. So every single one of those 4 drivers, Mercurio, Schwartz, Alt, and Cook, definitely capable of winning at Martinsville. It's going to be a crazy one. And then you mix in not only those 8 playoff drivers, but how about another 34 non-playoff contenders, or I'm sorry, not 34, but 24 non-playoff contenders that are all going to be going out there trying to win themselves.
Yeah, I mean, those non-playoff contenders have already shown here tonight. They are willing to do anything for a win, and that means moving one of these playoff contenders out of the way. They're willing to do it, which is wild to think. Usually when you're racing playoff drivers, there's so much respect for those drivers. You try to back off and not really influence the race. But here tonight, it was all about getting up front any means necessary. But I mean, Seth, we go to Martinsville in 2 weeks. That is a lot of time for these drivers to be thinking, what does my strategy need to be for that race?
Not only that, but it's back-to-back short tracks. You got to wonder what kind of grudges from tonight are going to carry over into Martinsville. Is that where the payback takes place? They're going to have 2 weeks to think about it.
Oh, for sure. But Seth, thanks for hopping in late. I know we had 2 broadcasts that we needed to do tonight. But, man, it was a wild one so far with both the series we did. And thank you for hopping in.
Oh, great to join you for this one. Typical short track racing. FTF always seems to have really exciting short track races. It's been that way all season long. No surprise it was the same here tonight. It was great to join you in the booth, and looking forward to doing it in a couple weeks' time at Martinsville, doing it all over again.
2 weeks from now, we're going to be at Martinsville figuring out who's going to be taking those 2 other spots, the battle for the championship. And it's going to be wild. We now know Derek Justice is locked in. Michael Frisch is locked in. Who will the other spots be? And like we said, that's in 2 weeks. But for us at Flatout Racing Network, the racing only continues on. With tomorrow night, we've got the Clutch Drop Racing guys racing, as well as if you go to our Twitch channel at Flatout Racing Network, we'll also be having some F1 2020 action there tomorrow. For myself, Sam Dyer, and with Seth Cole, thanks for watching another presentation of the Flatout Racing Network. Like we said, we'll see you in 2 weeks for the FTF Grand National Series, and sponsored by Splash and Go Graphics. Have a great rest of your night.